Hey there, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Brooks. Join me as I sit down and chat with co-hosts, friends, and carefully curated guests and talk about all the things that empower you to become your best and most confident self. So, let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. So today, I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about starting over and beginning again. Now, I know that the past several solo episodes that I've done have really been to kind of share some of the lessons and takeaways that I have been experiencing in this new stage and new season that I'm in, which is really just this tremendous rebirth, regrowth, reinvention, rediscovery, like all that stuff. And I think that, the more I'm seeing, like coming into my own revelations and realizations of my own journey here in this process, is that I'm seeing more and more individuals are just really in this similar state where it's like these past several years, we're like pushing 3+ years now on this major upset that had happened in our entire lives. Like we'll never experience something such as the pandemic in our lives like that, where our whole world just got shook. And I think in my own season, in my own exploration journey here, that, looking back, I see so many lessons that had come from so much destruction, pain, loss, grief, heartache, all of the things that we've experienced. And I think for me, compounding over time, it was just like I didn't realize the magnitude of the impact until hindsight. It's always our best teacher, right? Until we look back and realize that those small little changes that we had to, really start aligning our daily lives around were starting to add up. And looking back, I realized that there were so many, I guess, for my own accountability and responsibility here is to recognize those mishaps and maybe possibly like poor decisions or choices, things like that, that didn't at the time impact or directly have an effect until compounding over time and looking back, we see how, I guess, the decisions and the choices are now what we're experiencing. I'm hoping I'm explaining this correctly because this is something I'm unraveling in my own mind, in my own life, in like real time. And this is something that I thought would be an interesting conversation because if I'm experiencing this, I know, like I said, seeing that others are experiencing this as well, but also just to share that if this is you and maybe you're like, I didn't even really feel any massive changes, in my personal life or professional life, whatever that might be over these past several years, or even maybe this is past current, few months ago or something, whatever that season is for you, but exploring it now from a place of just maturity and wisdom and insight, right? Because when we look back at our lives and take personal accountability and responsibility, we could start now taking ownership of all the things that we can now learn from and build better choices, decisions, experiences, whatever that may be for you in this current season. So over the past several episodes that I've done more or less on the solo episodes, I've shared some of the teachings, some of the experiences, and I think the more I thought about it and just connecting with so many of you is I think there needed to maybe be a bit more transparency and vulnerability even on my own end, because I think overall, as again, this is real time, I'm navigating this and these ahas are kind of coming to the surface again in real time. But what I've experienced is that having more of that transparency and relatability is something that I definitely want to share more of. And I think overall, I sometimes struggle with that, with not so much of the sharing, but how and what to share. I've always been a very private person. It's just I'm a reserved individual. It's just who I am. And I understand being in the public space, it's like sometimes we just want to hear more. And I get it because me being a listener also on several podcasts or just, following certain individuals, I'm just curious, right? I want to know how their lives are relatable to mine. And I hope that I was doing that. And maybe I was, maybe I'm not, or maybe that just needs to have more. But the reason I'm just sharing that is because of the conversations that I've been hearing lately from others and just seeing that this is a real thing with we're all struggling. We've all experienced some terrible periods in these past 3 years. And I think as we open up more and share some of those struggles, it creates a voice for commonality that we're all in this together. Like, okay, yeah, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who had to reset and rebuild and redo, right? So as I'm sharing some of these lessons that I'm learning and looking back on and rebuilding in real time over these past 6, 7, 8, 9 months, maybe realizing now that that shift that I intentionally set out to rebuild, we'll just call it that, over these past several months has now started to show signs of positive growth and on the uphill, right? And the reason I say that is because of the former, where maybe those actions and habits and decisions and stuff that I had been doing that had worked prior to a pandemic and thought that I could still do the same things, but not realizing that those little micro shifts that I didn't implement started to really veer me off course. And that's why I say we get into the poor choices or mistakes or mishaps or whatever that may look like. And now looking back at life, you realize that you just veered off course because you didn't have the fortitude and insight to correct as you move forward. And so setting that tone, that was something that I intentionally set out to do over this extended period of time and started reinforcing some of these new steps and directions and choices and things like that. And to be honest, I didn't even know the direction I was going. All I knew was that clearly the directions and the habits and routines and decisions and all that stuff that I was doing before was steering me further and further off course. So looking back at the history of those past 3 years, I could see that if I were to keep this up, this is the direction that I'm going to continue to go. So not understanding that, when we embark on this journey of uncertainty, which we've all definitely been dealt the same hand, we didn't know the direction. We couldn't foresee. We had nothing in our history to refer back to because we hadn't experienced such, a scale of what we were in, during the pandemic. We've never experienced that before. So these changes that I started making over these past several months, and again, this was kind of just blind faith, where I was trusting in myself. And this was something that I had to reignite and re-enlist in my everyday decisions. Because sometimes when you build a system and you go through the systems in your life, which again, systems meaning your habits, your routines, all that stuff, those are your systems. And sometimes you can just go on autopilot and you find that you're sleepwalking through this life based on the presets. And sometimes those presets need to be recalibrated. And now that I've made those intentional choices to recalibrate, again, wasn't sure of the outcome because I had nothing to base it off of. Now looking back over these 6, 7, 8, 9 months, I'm realizing that that was the best decision I have ever made, was to literally scrap and restart and rebuild everything from the inside out, including myself. So for a little bit more transparency, this past year, I had just gone through some incredible, I guess more or less relationship issues. I found myself in a place that I didn't think I would ever be. And the more I found myself here, I was attracting the wrong people into my life. And I didn't know it at the time until, again, sometimes you mess stuff up so bad, you're just like, oh crap, what did I do? What happened? How did I get here? And that's when I realized that my struggles, my inner struggles were now manifested into my physical reality. And that was something as an aha for me this year that I had to rebuild again. I had to heal certain areas that needed additional healing. I had to readdress the relationships and the people I was surrounding myself with. I had to rediscover the woman I am because of the damage done that I had to endure, and finding myself again. And in that midst, and this is what we talk about as the confident woman. The confident woman is just, she's not walking around arrogant and confident and like head held high kind of thing. Like, oh, I've arrived. But this is who the confident woman is. She's that she gets knocked down. She gets back up. She has that resilience. She has the courage. She has the faith. She has the humility. She has the drive. She has that ambition, right? And if you are that version of the confident woman, every time we get knocked down, it isn't the end all be all. And this is the journey that I'm now on in a different version of me. And I think it's a really cool, life coming full circle from being down in the dumps for quite some time to really just now turning the corner. And when I say that, I'm not on the, pinnacle. I'm actually turning the corner of an uphill. And that is so encouraging to know that I finally broke through that darkness and we're actually on our way from, holistic aspect of it, right? So when we look at business and life and healthy relationships and thriving community to feeling supported to our overall mental health and well-being, things like that. And I think, as we intentionally find those pieces of our like wheel of life pie, when we start pouring in the energy and time to really improve that for a better quality of life. And like I said, these are starting to take place in my life that I'm so proud of the work that I put in, but I'm also more proud of the woman I became through these hardships. And this is for anyone listening who's going through some hardships. It's like sometimes the best way to just do it, get through this hardship, is put your head down and take one step at a time. And I know we're always told, keep your head up high, things will get better, but sometimes put the head down, right? Watch one foot in front of another step forward. And as you continue one step at a time, you have that forward progress. You have that momentum to just keep going. And the further you go, the closer you get to that light. And, as we approach light, meaning things are working out, things are improving, those changes are starting to have some positive traction. Things are, on the upside, right? Then we can really pick our head up and be proud of the work and the progress we've made. And that's something that I'm navigating also in my life is more of that celebration, more of the accomplishments and achievements and being proud of that, because sometimes we can just get lost in the gap of not feeling like we're ever making enough progress, that what we do at the end of the day just isn't enough. But when we start focusing on those little steps one at a time, those little steps add up to the big things that we consider, success or achievements or whatever that may be. But this is just something that I'm navigating again in real time. And I thought it would be an interesting topic to discuss also with you guys, but also just from the others that I'm seeing out there on the interwebs. Like, it's happening. The people are just at a place where the time spent in such darkness is being finally exposed in this light as we're coming through these different seasons and chapters that we're in. So it's just something that I'm like I said, personally, just real time, ahaing, breakthrough kind of thing. So I thought I would share that. And of course, I have additional things that I would love to share and be more open on. And I think that's something that I will continue to work on. I think that is something also in this work in progress. So bear with me as I'm going through a lot of transitions and growing pains and healing and all that stuff. So I'm here right with you guys. So if this is of any interest or you feel some relatability here where you're like, this was me, this is me, then let me know. Let me know that I'm not alone on this journey. And if there's additional things that you're struggling with or you think that would be helpful that we have these conversations on, drop me a line. Come on, go into my DMs on Instagram. I'm there like all the time. Drop into our Facebook community group. We have access points that are really there for you guys. Ideally, we have one life. Let's do this together. Let's be a part of this. Let's heal and move forward together. So if this resonates with you, let me know. And if this is something that you think that we should be having more conversations about, let's chat. Definitely let's chat. So take care, guys. I will be sharing more along my journey with you. So until next time, take care. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thanks again for listening.